Imagine an angel so fierce, so loyal, that even God trusted him with the weight of divine justice. But what happens when that angel starts to feel the pain of the very judgments he delivers? This is the story of Samuel, the angel who burned brighter than heaven itself, until his heart broke under the weight of mercy he could never understand. Buckle up, because this tale will pull you into a cosmic courtroom where love and justice collide, and an angel's loyalty becomes his tragedy. Before rebellion scarred heaven, before sin tainted creation, there was Samuel. His name meant venom of God, not because he was cruel, but because he carried the sharp edge of divine wrath. Picture an angel whose wings crackled with lightning, whose presence silenced the endless choirs of heaven. Samuel wasn't like Gabriel, the gentle messenger, or Raphael, the healer of souls. He was the sword of God, the one who turned divine law into reality. When God spoke the first light into existence, Samuel was there, listening, obeying, executing. His silence was his worship, his obedience, his identity. But deep inside, something was stirring, something even the other angels couldn't see. Can you imagine carrying out orders so heavy they start to crack your soul? Samuel was the prosecutor of heaven, the one who weighed the hearts of angels and men. He didn't sing with the choirs or bask in the light of the throne. He watched. He judged. His presence was a mirror reflecting every hidden flaw, and as he stared into the shadows of others, he began to see his own. "Even light casts shadows," he whispered once, his voice barely a ripple in heaven's harmony. That whisper was the first crack in his perfect loyalty, the first hint that even an angel could question the divine. What would you do if you were created to destroy, but started to feel the weight of every life you ended? That's the question that haunted Samuel. He stood before God's throne, closer than most angels dared, carrying out decrees with precision. Corrupt stars fell under his blade. Rebellious seraphim were silenced by his hand. He was power, order, fear, necessary. But necessity can be a dangerous thing. It makes you feel indispensable. And when you feel indispensable, you start to wonder if you're equal to the one you serve. That's where Samuel's tragedy began. When God created humans, fragile creatures of dust, Samuel's heart stirred with confusion. He turned to Michael, his brother in arms, and said, "We burn with holy fire, we bleed for our loyalty, yet he gives his likeness to them." Michael smiled softly and replied, "That's love, brother." But love was a foreign word to Samuel. Justice, obedience, those he understood. Love forgave what deserved punishment. Love turned judgment into mercy. And mercy was a language Samuel couldn't speak. Picture this. An angel forged in fire, standing in heaven's courtroom, tasked with accusing humanity. Samuel was perfect for it. Cold, precise, loyal. He became the voice that demanded, if they sin, they must die. If they disobey, they must fall. But every time he condemned, something inside him whispered, "You enjoy it." Was it pride, corruption, or just the echo of the role God gave him? That whisper grew louder, twisting his purpose into something darker. Can you feel the weight of that? Being so loyal to justice that you forget what mercy feels like. One day, God's voice paused. Samuel stood ready to deliver judgment on the first human sin, expecting the verdict: death. But instead God said, "They will live, for my plan is greater than their fall." Samuel froze. His wings stiffened, his flame flickered. "Live?" he whispered. "After betrayal?" the angels murmured. Michael bowed, Gabriel sighed in relief. But Samuel, sparks fell from his clenched fists like embers. He stepped forward, voice steady but sharp. "My lord, if the law is not kept, is it still holy?" It wasn't defiance, not yet. It was a question, born of a heart that couldn't grasp mercy. God's gaze burned with love, the kind that hurts worse than fire. "You were made for judgment," he said, "but you do not yet understand mercy." Mercy. That word became Samuel's torment. It had no place in his world of justice. He walked heaven's corridors in silence, the light dimming around him. Michael followed once, asking, "Brother, what troubles you?" Samuel's reply was too calm, too cold. "I am troubled by mercy, Michael. It forgives what must be purged." Michael's eyes filled with sorrow. Mercy doesn't erase justice, it redeems it. But Samuel only smiled faintly. Then redemption is a loophole, not a law. Can you imagine questioning the very foundation of everything you've ever known? That's where Samuel stood, on the edge of faith, teetering toward doubt. Weeks passed, and Samuel's loyalty began to shift. He still carried out God's commands, but he started to relish the fear in those he judged. He began to see himself not as a servant, but as the balance, the one who could correct even God's mercy. In heaven's still hour, when creation slept, Samuel stood at the edge of the firmament, staring at the mortal world below. Humans laughed, sinned, loved, repented. "They break every law," he whispered, "and yet you smile upon them. I destroy for you, and you look away." He raised his face to the throne and asked, "Do you still control the fire you placed in me?" No answer came. Silence. And silence to Samuel felt like permission. What happens when an angel acts without God's command? That's the line Samuel crossed. He began to give orders to the destroying angels before heaven spoke. He punished before judgments were confirmed. Michael confronted him, but Samuel's eyes burned with a new fire. "I act as I was created, to execute." But that fire wasn't holy anymore, it was rage. Human, raw, dangerous. Can you feel the tragedy of it? An angel so devoted to his purpose that it consumes him, turning him into something he was never meant to be. The first human death changed everything. God whispered, "Now it begins," and Samuel descended to earth. He found a man lifeless, his soul trembling as it rose like smoke. Samuel carried it to heaven's gate, waiting for God's voice. But there was only silence. "It is done," Samuel said, his voice sharp. "Is this not my purpose?" God's reply was soft but piercing. "Death is not destruction, Samuel. It is transition. You have turned the gate into a grave." The courtroom trembled. Samuel's light dimmed. He wanted to argue, but how do you argue with God? A single thought burned inside him. "Then you made me wrong." From that day, Samuel became the angel of death. Not an honor, but an exile. While other angels sang, he walked battlefields and deserts collecting souls. He saw tears, screams, hands reaching for mercy that never came. "If this is justice," he whispered, "why does it feel so cruel?" One night, alone at the edge of creation, Samuel cried. His tears fell like comets, mistaken by angels for falling stars. Michael found him, kneeling in the ashes of worlds he'd purified. "Why are you here alone?" Michael asked. "Because I touch what no one else dares," Samuel replied. "Because I see what no one else should." Michael whispered, "Then stop looking." But Samuel couldn't. "It's all I was made for." The breaking point came with a plague. A wave of death swept the earth, and Samuel descended without waiting for God's command. Thousands of souls rose, their cries darkening the sky. The angels whispered, "Samuel moves before the word. He decides." Heaven grieved, not because he rebelled, but because he was becoming something else, a god in his own mind. When he returned to the courtroom, God's voice was heavy. "You went before my voice again." Samuel bowed, but his words cut like a blade. "I only hastened the inevitable." God's reply shook the stars. "You do not hasten what I have not spoken." Samuel trembled, his voice barely a whisper. "Then speak faster." Heaven gasped. That was pride wrapped in pain, not obedience. God rose, and every star flickered. "You were my hand of justice, but now you have become the hand of your own will." Samuel was set apart, no longer allowed before the throne. He walked the edges of heaven, half in light, half in shadow. And in the darkness between the stars, a voice found him. "You were right to question," it hissed. "Mercy is weakness, justice is strength." It was Lucifer, the fallen morning star. "Who are you?" Samuel asked. The reply was soft, ancient. The one who once asked the same question. Lucifer didn't tempt Samuel to rebel. He simply showed him the wound they shared, a heart broken by a God who seemed to love others more. If Lucifer fell for pride, Samuel was falling for purpose. Can you imagine that? Falling not to defy God, but to understand him. The final blow came with a child, a boy no older than 10, doomed by his father's sins. Heaven's decree was clear. The bloodline must end. Samuel descended, his wings now darkened at the edges. He found the boy sleeping beside his mother, a candle flickering in their home. The decree burned in his hand, but as he raised it, he saw innocence, not sin. The mother woke, saw him, and whispered, "Please, not my son." Those words broke him. For the first time, Samuel disobeyed. He tore the decree in half. The heavens roared. Lightning split the sky. God's voice thundered, "Samuel!" He fell to his knees, crying, "Have mercy! The boy has done nothing." But the boy's life was taken by divine command, not Samuel's hand. And Samuel screamed, "Then why did you give me a heart?" From that day, Samuel was no longer the same. The light in his eyes was gone. He still carried out judgments, but he saw humans as fragile, tragic beings, doomed by the God who made them. Pain twisted into something darker. Lucifer found him again, whispering, "You see the flaw in his perfection. You kill in his name, yet they call you evil." Samuel didn't answer, but the question lodged in his mind. If justice destroys the innocent, is it still divine? He began to wander beyond orders, hesitating to strike, intervening where he shouldn't. Some angels called him merciful, others called him dangerous. Heaven watched, hell waited. Samuel stood between them, torn, broken, no longer certain which side was right. Samuel's fall wasn't like Lucifer's, blazing with pride. It was quiet, born of heartbreak. He didn't want God's throne, he wanted to understand God's heart. And that's what makes his story so tragic. He became the outcast angel, delivering death but whispering prayers for the souls he took. Heaven and hell feared him because neither could claim him. They called him the angel of death, but maybe he was something more. The proof that even in judgment, compassion can burn like a dying star that refuses to fade. So what would you do if you were Samuel? Torn between obedience and mercy, would you follow orders? Would you call it love if it cast you out? His story isn't just about an angel's fall. It's about the cost of loyalty, the pain of purpose, and the heartbreak of a God who loves but doesn't explain. Share your thoughts below. Let's talk about what it means to serve, to question, and to feel.